Do you ever feel like you're just surrounded by problems? That's exactly how Amelia felt every single day. Her life was a heavy weight on her shoulders, a burden she carried from the moment she woke up until she finally fell into a restless sleep. Bills were always piling up, and it seemed like there was never enough money, no matter how hard she worked. Her job was a constant source of stress, a place where she felt unappreciated and overlooked. It was just one thing after another, a cycle of worry that never seemed to end. Amelia looked at her life and saw only a mountain of troubles. She felt completely alone in her struggles, lost in a storm with no sign of a rescue. Amelia had heard people talk about God. They would say things like, "Just trust in the Lord," or "Give your worries to God." But to her, those words were empty. They didn't mean anything. How could a God she couldn't see or touch possibly understand what she was going through? She thought faith was for people who needed a crutch, for those who couldn't face the harsh realities of the world on their own. She believed she had to be strong, to rely only on herself. The idea of a loving God who cared about her personal problems seemed like a fairy tale, something too good to be true for a life as difficult as hers. This disbelief wasn't something she was proud of, it was just a fact of her life, like the color of her eyes. She had tried praying once or twice when she was younger, desperate for any kind of help. But when nothing changed, when the problems remained, she decided it was a waste of time. Her heart became hardened to the idea of faith. She told herself that if God was real, he wouldn't let good people suffer so much. So she built a wall around her heart, a wall of doubt and cynicism. She was convinced that she was the only one who could solve her problems, even though she was failing miserably at it every single day. Every morning, Amelia would look in the mirror and see a tired, defeated woman staring back at her. The joy was gone from her eyes, replaced by a deep-seated weariness that came from fighting battles she never seemed to win. Her relationships were strained because her constant worrying made her irritable and distant. Friends would try to reach out, but Amelia would push them away, not wanting to burden them with her endless list of complaints. She was trapped in a prison of her own making, a prison of negativity and unbelief. She didn't realize that the very thing she was rejecting, faith in God, was the only key that could set her free. One particularly difficult evening, Amelia collapsed into bed, feeling more hopeless than ever before. A new bill had arrived that she had no way to pay, and her boss had criticized her work in front of everyone. The weight of it all was crushing her spirit. As tears streamed down her face, she whispered into the darkness, "If you are real, why won't you help me?" It wasn't a prayer of faith, but a cry of pure desperation. With that heavy thought, she drifted into a deep sleep, exhausted from the emotional turmoil of the day. It was in that sleep that something extraordinary happened, something that would change the course of her life forever. In her dream, Amelia found herself standing in a place filled with a brilliant, warm light. The worries and anxieties that had plagued her for so long simply melted away. All the noise in her head went silent. She felt a sense of peace she had never known, a calm that settled deep within her soul. It was a peace that went beyond understanding. She wasn't standing in a field or a room, but in a presence. A gentle, powerful voice called her name, and she knew without any doubt that she was in the presence of God. It wasn't a frightening experience. It was like coming home after a long and difficult journey. She didn't see a face in the traditional sense, but she saw and felt an overwhelming love, a love that accepted her completely, flaws and all. The light seemed to wrap around her like a warm blanket. The voice spoke to her, not with words of judgment, but with words of compassion and grace. It told her, "Amelia, I have seen your struggles. I have heard your cries. I have been with you all along, waiting for you to turn to me. You were never alone." In that moment, the wall around Amelia's heart began to crumble. All her doubt and cynicism seemed so small and insignificant in the face of this immense love. Overwhelmed with emotion, Amelia began to weep, but these were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of relief and release. She poured out all her fears, her frustrations, and her pain. She told God how she felt abandoned and how she had lost all hope. The loving presence listened patiently, absorbing all her hurt. When she was finished, the voice simply said, "Give it all to me. Trust me, and I will guide you. Stop trying to carry this burden by yourself. Let me be your strength." The invitation was so simple yet so profound. It was an offer of a new way to live, a life free from the chains of worry. Amelia's eyes fluttered open as the morning sun streamed through her window. For a moment she lay still, the feelings from the dream still vivid in her mind. The peace was still there. The crushing weight that usually greeted her each morning was gone. In its place was a lightness, a sense of hope she hadn't felt in years. The dream had not been a mere fantasy, it felt more real than her waking life. She knew with a certainty that resonated in the core of her being that God was real. She had met him and he had spoken to her. The hardened skeptic of yesterday was gone, replaced by a woman with a budding faith. Getting out of bed, she did something she hadn't done in a very long time. She closed her eyes and said, "God, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to trust you, but I want to. The dream, it changed everything. Please show me the way. I give you my problems, I give you my bills, my job, my worries. They are yours now." It was a simple, clumsy prayer, but it came from a sincere heart. It was her first true step of faith, an act of surrendering control. She decided that from that day forward, she would stop trying to figure everything out on her own and start listening for God's guidance. Her actions began to change immediately. At her stressful job, instead of reacting with frustration when her boss was critical, she took a deep breath and prayed for patience. She started treating her co-workers with kindness, even the ones who had been difficult in the past. She decided to focus on doing her best work as an offering to God, rather than for the approval of her boss. People started to notice a difference. The tense, irritable Amelia was being replaced by someone who was calmer and more gracious. She was learning to live out her new faith in practical, everyday ways, trusting that God was in control of the outcome. When a new problem arose, her first instinct was no longer to panic. Instead, it was to pray. She started reading the Bible, hungry to learn more about the God she had met in her dream. The words on the pages, which once seemed irrelevant, now spoke directly to her heart, offering encouragement and wisdom. She learned that God's will wasn't about following a long list of complicated rules, but about loving Him and loving others. It was about trusting His plan even when she couldn't see the whole picture. Her faith wasn't a one-time event, it was a daily choice to trust and obey. Slowly but surely, as Amelia continued to put her trust in God and follow His lead, her circumstances began to change in miraculous ways. It didn't happen overnight, but one by one, the mountains of problems started to shrink. An unexpected opportunity came up at work, a new project that perfectly matched her skills. Because she'd been working with a better attitude, her boss noticed and gave her the lead. This new role came with a raise, which provided just enough to start getting her finances in order. Amelia knew this wasn't a coincidence. It was God providing for her, just as He had promised. Her relationships also began to heal. Because she was no longer consumed by her own worries, she had the emotional energy to be a better friend. She started reaching out to the people she had pushed away, asking for forgiveness for her past behavior. Her friends were overjoyed to see the change in her and welcomed her back with open arms. Her home, once a place of tension and anxiety, became a place of peace. Laughter was heard more often than sighs of frustration. She was discovering that a life centered on God was a life filled with connection and joy, not isolation and despair. The most profound change, however, was internal. The constant fear and anxiety that had been her companions for so long were replaced by a deep and abiding peace. She still faced challenges. Life didn't suddenly become perfect, but her approach to them was completely different. Now, when a problem appeared, she saw it not as a reason to despair, but as an opportunity to trust God more. She knew that He would give her the strength and wisdom to get through it. Her faith was her anchor in the storms of life, keeping her steady no matter what winds blew her way. Amelia's life was a testament to the power of faith. She had gone from a woman trapped in doubt and misery to a woman living a life of purpose and joy. She often shared her story with others who were struggling, telling them about the dream that changed everything. She would say, "Don't let doubt rob you of the peace God wants to give you. He is real, He loves you, and He is just waiting for you to turn to Him." Her life was no longer defined by her problems, but by the incredible love and faithfulness of the God who had met her in a dream and led her into a brand new life.